And so I started to go through this list and I'm like, well, is it them? Like, is it they're not interesting enough? Are they just not the kind of guys I like? And then I went to, well, am I gay? And let me tell you, there was a lightning bolt that struck my body and I was in panic mode.
Hello, my name's Kay Anderson, and you are listening to Lost Spaces, the podcast that mourns the death of queer nightlife. Every episode, I talk to a different person about a venue from their past, the memories that they created there, and the people that they used to know. So, one of the things that I have noticed in all of my time doing this show is that it is fairly common for people who came out later in life to kind of just really hurry to experience all of the queer shit that they've missed out on. You know, kind of like a kid in a candy shop type situation. And that is exactly what happened to this week's guest, podcaster and voiceover artist Phil Corin, who, upon realizing that maybe it's possible that they weren't 100% heterosexual, suddenly was on a mission to make their way to the New York City lesbian bar Meow, which was open from 1996 until 2004. And once they got into the bar, well, the gloves were kind of off, but you will have to listen to the whole episode to find out the story. I'm not giving it away that easily. In this episode, we chat all about coming out tactics, lesbian pulp fiction, and our kind of complicated feelings about single gender spaces. Why don't we get into it?
Meow holds very important memories for me because I came out. I wouldn't say I came out of Meow, but like Meow was a place I went when I first came out, and it's also the place where I met my wife.
Wow.
I'm no longer married, but I was in a very long-term partnership with someone I met at Meow. Yeah. So it has a lot of significance in my life.
So we have lots of stories today. Mm-hmm. This is good.
We do. Buckle up.
So, coming out, on a scale of 1 to 10, how traumatic?
With 10 being the most traumatic?
Yes. Actually, I'm just going to revise my scale to reflect the space that we're talking about today. 1 out of 10 meows. How traumatic? 10 being the most.
2 meows.
2 meows. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
It's fairly gentle.
There's a very good story. Yeah. It's not an exciting story, but it's a good story because it doesn't involve, like, I feel like a lot of people have come out because they were like, I had a drunken night and I kissed someone. And then they started thinking about that and like, what does it mean? Wait a minute. Am I attracted to that gender? Like, what is happening? And that's not what happened to me. Mine was literally the way I do most things. It was a literal internal conversation.
Wait. How many people do you know that never ever examined their sexuality until they got drunk and then snogged someone?
So many.
Really?
So many. Yeah.
Like they just didn't have any inkling.
Most of them didn't. I feel like most of them had a moment with someone and then, or they found themselves, it didn't have to be like they were drunk. It was just they were attracted to someone and they're like, wait, what's going on?
How interesting.
Yeah, that kind of woke it up for them. Yeah. Some of them knew, but most of them, I feel like a lot of people I know were like, they had to grapple with it because they're like, wait, why am I attracted to this person? What's happening? Yeah.
Heteronormativity really fucks you up, doesn't it?
It really does.
But that wasn't the case for you. So you had this internal dialogue.
I did.
Conversation with yourself.
I did. Yes, that conversation came about because I was dating men.
Ugh, why?
I know. That's why I know. It's like, you look at me now, you're like, why? Why was this happening to you? Why? Please explain.
No, I just meant, why would you waste your time dating men? Like,
Well, listen, here's what happened. I was dating men because I didn't know any better. And I was not happy, as something felt off. which is usually what happens with me. Like, this is how internal conversations start to happen with me. Something doesn't feel quite right, and it's nagging me, but I can't put my finger on what it is. So generally, when that happens, what I do is like I kind of like go off by myself into a room or a place, and I just sit for a minute and try to go through a list. I'm like, well, is it this? Is it that? Like I go through a mental list, and I know that I've hit the thing that is disturbing me when I have a feeling, a reaction in my body. Like I feel
Yeah.
something in my body. Well, one such day, I literally had a moment of being like, I am dating these men. They're fine. They're whatever. I'm not that interested. There were a couple. There was like two or three I was dating. I'm like, shouldn't one of them stand out and being awesome? Like, shouldn't I think one of them is awesome? They're nice enough. Like, they were pretty decent guys. And I was like, something is not right here. I don't even think it's them. I'm like, it's dating men. I don't know, something's wrong. And so I started to go through this list, and I'm like, well, is it them? Like, is it they're not interesting enough? Are they just not the kind of guys I like? And then I went to, well, am I gay? And let me tell you, there was a lightning bolt that struck my body, and I was in panic mode. I was like, what? I knew it. The second I thought it, I knew it was true. That is what happened to me.
Okay, so how old were you, like roughly, when this happened?
I must have been 25, 26.
Wow. And so before then, you'd never thought about it?
No. So here's what happened. Before then, I must have been attracted to girls, but I didn't know that's what it was. I didn't understand that that's what it was. I just had these friends where I was like, I love being around her. I want to be around her more. I want to be around her all the time. But I just thought it was friendship. I didn't know that there was this other element to it. So I just suppressed, pushed it down, pushed it away. Yeah. And then I had these other moments where I feel like the universe was like trying to talk to me. It was like, I need you to wake up. Like I had a work colleague who once said to me, are you in the life? Like we were just having a conversation and she goes, I have a question for you. Are you in the life? And that's for people who don't know from, if you're old like me, that is how people used to ask if you were gay back in the day. And I was like, I didn't know what the hell she was talking about. I was like, in the life. What is, I'm living.
I am alive.
But what is in the life? And she was like, are you gay? And I was like, oh, no. Oh, no, that's not me. I'm not gay. No. And she was like, okay, well, if you change your mind, let me know. And I was like, okay, sure, great, thanks. We're good. End of story. I also had another incident where I was living in this brownstone and I was living on the top level. Mm-hmm. And there was a family that lived on the bottom level and they owned the brownstone. And they, for some odd reason, I guess I don't know if the person who was living there before me was getting Out magazine. And they would just leave it with my mail. Like, oh, you should take this. And I was like, I'm sorry. Why would it doesn't have my name on it. What are you trying to say? Out magazine. Like multiple issues. It wasn't a mistake. They were clearly trying to tell me something. And so I'm like, what is happening? And I'm just like, no, that's cute. Out magazine. No, I don't think so. No, I'm good. But, all of this led up to, like, I have to figure out, like, what's going on. And like I said, I had that moment where I was like, something is not right and I need to figure out. And when I went through that mental checklist and I went to the part of that list that was like, are you gay? I was like, I have to figure out what's going on here because I think there's something true about that.
And so, so you had that moment of like, fuck, that's what it is. Shit,
it was fear.
What am I gonna do?
It was like, it was sheer fear. Just like,
Sheer fear.
Sheer fear.
So then what happened? Like, how long did it take you to kind of come around to the idea?
Well, it didn't take me long. I think what I did is like, I'm a Capricorn, so we just have a list, we get things done. We like to check things off a list. So I was like, all right, you got to figure this out, right? So now I'm like, I got to go. So one of my best friends was living around the corner from me, and she's gay. And I was like, I reached out to her and I was like, hey, we got to get together. We have to talk. So she comes home from work one day, and I'm at her apartment, and we're hanging out, and I was like, you need to sit down. I was like, go get a beer. You need to sit down and get a beer. We got to talk about this. We got to work this out. And she's like, what is going on? I'm like, I have to tell you something. And she goes, what? And I'm like, I think I'm gay. And she's like, I'm gonna go get that beer now. And she goes, gets the beer, and we sit down, and she's like, what are you talking about? I was like, I think I'm gay, and I think I need you to take me to the club. We need to go there this Friday, and we need to do this. And that club was Meow Mix.
Wait, okay, hang on. Wait.
Yeah.
So what's the time period here? So you had this moment of revelation,
Yeah.
you were panicked,
Yeah.
and then you went straight to your friends and was like, I need to go out and...
Right. So, I mean, I think maybe within the week, I was like, I have to be like, I got to figure this out. Like,
Oh.
what if this is true, I need to know this. So I was just like, I couldn't see my friend right away. So it was maybe 2 or 3 days when I had to like wait to see her. And so when I went over there and we talked about it, she was like, oh, shoot. Okay, well, this is crazy. And I can't believe this is happening for you. And I'm like, yeah, no, this is happening. I'm like, I need to go. What's the club you go to? I was like, where's the place you go where all the girls are? I need to go there with you, and I need to know if this is a thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so you went from just like not ever examining this at all, not ever thinking about it at all, to being like, right, I need to go and do some fact finding.
If I'll tell you this, I think that if I didn't have such a reaction, I wouldn't have taken it as seriously. But the reaction I had was so visceral that I was like, I don't know. I got to look into this. Something's up here. I got to figure this out.
And so prior to going to Meow Mix on this first evening, what evidence were you anticipating you would be collecting?
I wanted to go. When I went there, I was like, okay, I need to see how I feel. Like, I want to go there and see how I feel. Like, do I feel comfortable? Do I feel freaked out? Do I feel like I just needed to know how I would react? Because I feel like it would tell me more about like what was happening for me. That's what I thought to myself. I mean, one part of it that I did forget to tell you is that my friend had all these like lesbian pulp fiction novels, like these, like they were all paperback, and like she would be like, "Oh, why don't you read some of these?" And I was like, "I don't know." And then I would read them, and I'd be like, "I need another. I need another." I'd be at her door being like, "I gotta get, like, give me more." And she was like, "Okay, just slow down, pal. Like, you got it."
Isn't lesbian pulp fiction written for the male gaze? No.
Not these.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Not the ones I read. They were from me. And I loved it. And I couldn't get enough of it. I needed as much as possible.
So talk me through a typical plot line then.
So it's usually this plot line where it's like there's two women, like one is like more mannish, as they would say, and they're flirty and they're not really, nobody knows what's really happening. And then there's this moment where there's all this sexual tension building up in their relationship. And then there's one moment where everybody just loses their mind and they start making out and they have sex. It's like, it's always like this burst of like, I have to have you now because they are holding back so much. So I feel like that was a typical thing that I read in many of those novels. It was always like, no one knows what's going on at first, but there's something happening and there's sexual tension and wait, what's happening? And this woman, is she really straight? Like the femme woman is always like, wait, she's straight. And the other woman's not quite sure what she is. And then all of a sudden there's this crescendo and this buildup of like sexual tension that just bursts into like,
But do you have to read the whole book till you get to the sex scene?
I mean, I wanted to lap it all up. All of it.
Just feels like that's not enough for a whole book to me.
I needed it. I'm telling you right now. This is what happens when you suppress your sexuality, and then you feel like you're in a desert and you're thirsty, and then you just start being like, "Oh my God!" So now you're getting a drink of water, and you just want the whole fountain. You're like, "Give me the fountain, give it to me." And so that's really what happened.
Well, yeah, nothing like a bit of fiction to change all of your perceptions and expectations for what dating and romance is actually like. So let's go back to Meow Mix.
Yeah.
This first night. First of all, I want to know the anticipatory feelings.
Yeah.
In the days leading up to going and then in the hours leading up to going, how did that feel?
Well, it felt like I just kept wondering, what am I going to feel like when I am there? Like, what is this going to feel like for me? Is this going to feel so foreign that I'm freaked out and I can't react to anything? Or is this going to feel like wrong or bad? Like, I didn't know what to expect about how I would feel. I think I was so curious to see what would happen. There's something about me that I have to say, like, just like I had a moment of sort of understanding that something was going on with me, I've always been somebody who looked at myself, like has ability to examine myself in a certain way, right? So to me, what I needed to know was how I was going to react, because how I reacted would tell me everything I needed to know. It would tell me whether I was like, oh no, you're off base. This is not right. Or you were right by having that reaction, and maybe there is something here, and now you need to explore this and figure out, are you really gay, right? And I really didn't know what I was going to find. But I have to tell you, when I walked in that club that night, I felt like I opened the door and I was hit with all this female energy. It was just like female energy.
Wait, okay. I want to hear about the female energy,
Okay.
but let's stay where we are. Sorry
Okay.
to cut you off.
Sure.
So you had this, like, I need to find out. I don't know what's going on. Do you remember wishing it was one way or another?
No, I don't. I think I'll be honest with you. If I'm honest, I knew which way it was going to go. You know why? It's because I just trusted that feeling I had when I had the thought. I trusted it so much. I just couldn't understand how I would have that feeling and it not be true. That's the thing I didn't understand. I was like, there's no possible way I could feel that, such a strong feeling, and it not be anything. I trusted myself enough to know that. That's why I think I was like, I need to go there. To me, it was about going there to confirm it.
It was like a victory lap.
Yes, and just to be like, and also be girls. Of course, let's be honest. Be girls, like, so important. But I was like, I trusted the feeling, and so I was just like, I just need to confirm this. And if I had gone there and I had decided that I was wrong, I think that would have put me in a little more of a tailspin, because I would have been like, now I have to think about, can I trust myself?
Well, what does that mean? I don't like men or women.
Right. I was like, what's happening? Yeah, maybe I don't like either of them. But I think I would have been more confused if I had gotten there and was not interested. Yeah.
Okay. So you had just said a really exciting sentence when I cut you off, and it was about female energy hitting you.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was just like, I got to get to this club. Just like, I got to get in there. I got to figure this out. I just need to know if this is like a thing. And I walk in, I open this door, and there's like all this music playing. It's all these girls. Like, it's just like a dive bar, and there's like a DJ. And I walk in, and I'm like, oh, this energy is like, whoa, so nice. There are no men here? Oh my God, really? No offense. But I was just like, this is freaking amazing. There was something right away that I was just like, this feels really nice. It felt comfortable. It felt like warm. It felt inviting. It just felt like it was what I was expecting, or hoping, I should say.
And so you went with your friend. Were you terrified, or were you just like excited?
I think I was excited, but I was also like, again, I didn't know what I was going to find, but I expected to find that I would take to the environment, like, like a duck to water. Like, I was expecting that. And that's kind of what happened. And my friend...
so exciting.
It was exciting. And I think my friend was just there and being like, okay, I'm supportive of you. Like, just come in, let's just do a thing. And it's weird because I felt like you would think that I would be looking to her more to like walk me through this and be like, but as soon as I got there, I was like, I'm good. I'm going to go to drink. I was just like, I didn't need help. Because I was like, I came home finally. That's what it felt like.
Oh, wow.
That's
so
what it
yeah,
felt
so that's kind of what I was trying to get at. Like, did you make an active attempt to talk to people, or were you like, I'm just going to stand in the back and kind of figure this out?
No, I went straight for it. Straight for it. I still don't even understand. To this day, I saw this girl and I was like, I want to dance with her. And I went over to this girl. I just started dancing with her, and then we ended up dating, me and this girl. Like,
What?
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 I think if you're like a fish and you're like out of water, and then someone puts you in the water, you're gonna do a lot of swimming. You're gonna do a lot of eating. You're gonna do all the things.
Yeah, but this doesn't sound like you're doing all the things. This sounds like you're getting to the first piece of food and being like, yep, that'll do.
Yeah. I was just like, I need some food. Doesn't matter what it looks like. Do I normally hate asparagus? I'm eating asparagus today. Today I'm eating it.
But so that how like what? Yeah. Okay.
You're
So you
flustered
just-
now. Look at you. I'm flustered.
You went into this place
Yeah.
and then you were just like and then it was a relationship.
So I wouldn't say a relationship, but we dated for like, we dated for like maybe a month or so. It wasn't.
Okay.
But it was just dating. No, it was just dating. But it was like, I just saw her and I was like, that's the one. I'm going to go for her. Like, I'm just going to do it. Yeah.
Are you always this decisive?
Never. Never. I'm like, I could learn something from that at this point in my life. I'm not like that at all right now. I'm trying to get back to that and just be like, her, yes, and go straight for it. Yeah, I don't do that anymore. Now I'm just like,
Give me your number.
right, like, yeah, now I'm not even doing that, right? You know, like not cavemanning it and batting somebody over the head. You come me. Like, I'm not that way anymore. And I'm trying to get back to being a little more like that.
Why do you think you're not that way anymore?
Well, experience. I think it's, you definitely, you get older and you start to think too much. You have more doubts. You start to wonder, am I up for it? Am I good enough? You start, you have those moments. I don't doubt the fact that I am a good person to date and a good person to like even be involved in a relationship. But it's like as you get older, you start to think more. You start to like question more of who you are and what you have to offer and things of that sort. And so I feel like I had a bit of a departure from that, and now I'm slightly coming back to being like, you know what? Whereas before I just didn't have experience enough to even question it, now that I can question it, now I'm coming back to what I have to offer is wonderful. And it's not for everyone, but it's for some people. And those people are, I'll find those people, right? So there's less questioning now than there was, but I didn't know enough to question when I was younger, like in my 20s. Yeah, I was just like, I just got to find out if I'm gay. Just got to know. Because now I got a whole list of people I got to gotta come out to my mom, I was just like, I was being a Capricorn, being like, I gotta get the list together, I gotta get it done.
Okay, well, let's explore this a bit more. So you went out, you tested your theory, you proved your theory, and then the follow-up actions and on the things on that list that you had to then cross off was telling your family, coming out to people. Was that just like the next morning?
Yeah, you would think the way I just told this story. You would think you'd be like, all right, so let me get a list of like 10 people from my family.
I've got to stop making out with you right now because I've got to ring my mum. Sorry.
You're like, I'm done. Yeah, we can't make out anymore. I have to have a list of people to come out to. I can't do this anymore. But I'll call you next week. It wasn't quite like that. It took me a little longer to do the coming out part, right? So once I figured it out, I started with my friends, and then I went to like family members. And I guess I felt like I need them to know this is who I am. Because for me in particular with friendships, it's weird. I would say family a little less in some ways. But with friendships, it's like I can't have them not know me and continue to be in really close, intimate friendships with these people. Because now this is not a small part of me. This is something that's new and it's big to me. And I need them to know. I need them to know. So, I came out to various friends, and back in that time, it was like some people were confused. Some people were like, "Oh, that's fine. You do you," and other people were like, whenever you're coming out, sometimes you were coming out to like a straight woman, they'd be like, "Well, you're not interested in me, are you?" I'm like, I didn't say any of that. Like, did you hear what I said? I said, I'm gay. I didn't say anything about you. This is not about you.
Way to make it about you, Becky.
Right.
Yeah.
Also, I wasn't trying to hit on you when I didn't know. I'm not trying to hit on you now that I know. It's like, come on. Like, and that's a horrible reaction, but like some people had that reaction.
Did those friendships survive?
Probably not.
Okay.
I can't think of anybody that said that to me then that I'm friends with now, but that was many years ago. But, I think back then there was a little level of like, oh, this is hard. This is a little shameful in some ways. And I don't know, do I have to just take what I can get? Do you know what I mean? Like I have to keep these friendships because I don't know if this means that I won't have friendships or have love in my life. Like there was a time when it was like so much scarier to be out.
Yeah, and it's like maybe I need to put up with them being a bit shit to me because no one else is going to want to be my friend.
Exactly. And I have to tell you right now, that's a big difference between who I was then and who I am now. If I was doing that today, those people would be in Never Land. Never call me, never write me, never text me, never contact me. We would have no contact. I'd be like, I can't have you in my life, But back then, you just didn't know, right? It was just so uncertain.
And there were less TV channels then to keep you occupied if you did run out of friends.
That's right. I would be caught watching, The Outer Limit or something on repeat. I don't know. I don't want to have that, right? So you had to keep your friends.
So that's crossing that bit off the list. You said something interesting about family. You're less interested in them necessarily knowing who you are.
Yeah, I mean, I think with my family, I mean, I wouldn't say that about my immediate family. I feel like with my extended family, I've always been a little bit removed and a little bit distant from them. So it doesn't feel to me as much of a risk for them to know or as important for them to know because I don't have very close relationships with them. But with my immediate family, absolutely, right? So coming out to my sister, her response was, yeah, I guess I already knew this. And I was like, which, by the way, some of my friends also said that. And let me just tell you what they said. They said, yeah, we thought you already were because you are always wearing overalls, but you never told us. I was in shock and offended.
I mean, it is a telltale sign.
I was like, overalls is a telltale sign? Can a person just love overalls? They're like, not that much. Not as much as you like them.
Oh, so I was going to ask you about your gay friend, the first person that you came out to.
Yeah.
Was that her response?
No, I think her response was sheer shock. I think she was just in massive shock and didn't know what to say and was just like, okay, I just need to support you in this. But maybe there was a part of her, like, she never told me this, but I feel maybe there could have been a part of her that was like, it's about time. It's about time. I've been waiting. We're all here. Your toaster, your package, it's all ready for you. You just never came to pick it up. Your gay packet has been waiting. It's been waiting registrations had it for years. You just never came to pick it up.
So the way you responded when you said that some family members said, oh yeah, we already knew, was one of kind of a bit of disgust, maybe? Maybe that's too strong a word.
I don't know if it was disgust. Like, that was my sister, and I feel like it wasn't disgust so much as like, I don't know, maybe there was a tinge of sadness in some way, which I don't know if I truly understood. But there was also like a resigned
a
sort
tinge of sadness from you, or tinge of sadness from her?
There was nothing for me to be sad about. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay, because I was like with girls now. I was like, there was nothing to be sad about for me. I think it's just maybe sad. There was sadness from her just because she maybe visioned my life a certain way. In her mind, she saw me maybe being with a man and settling down. Which honestly, I don't know if that's true or not. I'm thinking could be what it was, but I don't know.
Well, we actually have your sister here on the other line, so we're going to find out.
Well, I just texted her, and she didn't mention anything about being on the line, so she better not be. She's going to get a talking to if she's on the line, I'll tell you that much. That's really funny. That's okay. Well, I don't know why. I don't know what she was actually thinking, but I think it's just, she just sounded a little sad, but she understood, and she's always been wonderful about it. My mom, on the other hand, did not have a great reaction.
Oh.
Yeah, she cried. My mom cried, and she said to me, when your father and I had you, we were very much in love. And I was like, thanks, and? Like, I don't know what that was supposed to... I mean, to me, maybe what she was communicating was like, you were born out of love, and like, how could this happen? Like, I don't know. But like, I have had a very fraught relationship with like some members of my family because I was always sort of like the black sheep. I was always somebody who just didn't play by the rules with them, right? Like, I was always different. I didn't dress the way they thought I should dress. I was always dressing a little more boyish than they cared for. I was always not what they wanted me to be. And I think by the time I came out, I was so done with trying to like being in this battle with them about like, they want me to be this, but I'm that. Like, I was so done with it that like, there was a lot of resentment that had built up on my end. So by the time I came out, I was done with any conversation. I was not interested in any other reaction other than, okay, we're good with that. That is not the reaction I got. And so I said to my mother, I was like, I mean, this is not the thing you do when you're coming out. Like, if I had to do it again, I wouldn't do it like this today. I wouldn't be like, Mom, I'm gay. I'm going to marry a woman. You're going to have to get over it. Like, get on the bus or get off, Mom. I don't know what to tell you. Get on or get off. And, like, my mom is, like, in shock. And, my mom's West Indian. She's West Indian. She doesn't know what the hell. It's not okay for her. you know, religious, West Indian, all of these things. And so today I could be a little kinder about it. But like there was so much resentment that had built up about not feeling accepted in the first place that I was like, I'm not interested in being told for one more thing that I'm not what I should be. I'm just not
Yeah.
interested. I don't want to hear about it.
I think maybe that is the best way of doing it. Like maybe
Really?
not with the chutzpah that you just delivered it with, but being really clear about here is the line. Like, I'm sorry, like this is a non-negotiable. This is who I am. I'm not going to apologize for it. And now let's work from there rather than, oh, I need to tell you this. I might be gay.
Well, I don't know. I think I would have done it a little differently. I mean, I would have been a little kinder about it, just because, not because she should get away with not accepting it, but because I have to understand what her history is, right?
Yeah, yeah,
and
And the
I have to
curve.
kind of meet her, like, but at the end of the day, like, I think it would have still been the same sort of thing of like, this is not really a negotiable, and this is not something this is not like you can talk me out of being this. Like, this is what it is. Like, so how do we get you to a place where you're okay? Because this is not going to change. And in my mind, when I went to her, I was actually more of like, if you do not accept this, then you are not going to have me in your life. And I don't think I would take that hard line today because I feel like it's not the way I want to approach things. I don't think it's wrong for everyone. There may be some people who need to be that way, but I don't like to work that way. I feel like I want to give you a chance, and there may be a point where I have to be like, you're out.
Yeah,
But I have to like, let me work with you a little bit. Should I have to do the labor? No, but if I choose to do it, then I'll do it.
Okay, help me understand the timeline. So this moment of reflection where you were like, okay, to this point where you're having this conversation with your mum, how much time passed?
Well, I would say that's months. I mean, that's definitely months because
It's still really fascinating to me.
well, actually, no, hang on. Actually, now that I think about it, because I was dating somebody, it could have actually been a year, maybe a year later. It could have been
Okay.
like more like a year later because now I remember I was dating somebody, and that was like somebody I had dated. Like I had dated a couple people after that one person from Meow. So
Hell, Phil.
yeah, no, I had to get on it. I got to get on it. I have to. I didn't want to waste any more time. I was like, gotta get on it.
Oh, geez.
I mean, by the way, when my friends were like, you were wearing overalls, we thought, you already were. And I was like, I wish somebody had told me this because I could have been enjoying this much sooner. And I got mad at my friends. I was like, you should have said something.
See, I have this conversation quite a lot, and I know that some people find it really offensive when your friends say, oh, we knew already, because they should let you have your moment. I don't have that strong a feeling about it myself.
They shouldn't have done that, by the way. But
why not?
They shouldn't have done it because I did need to have my moment. And I'll say this: think of a moment in your life when you saw somebody doing something, or you tried to give them some knowledge that they didn't have, that they could have used at that moment, and it wasn't wrong. What you said to them wasn't wrong, and what you were telling them was valuable to them, but they couldn't embody it. Right. And so they go back to doing the same things that they were the thing that's not helping them, the things that's not serving them. What I learned is that like people have to be on their journey. And the thing about my journey was like I was able to accept it so much more because I got there on my own because of that moment when I had it, like that visceral feeling. If someone had told me, I might have fought it and been like, no, that's not, I'm not doing, no. Like I may have still had that same timeline.
You could have still been dating men.
Oh, right. Oh no. Oh God. Don't make me be this way. You're making me really be not myself today. That's terrible. Don't make me be this way. No, but I just feel like there's a journey for everybody. And sometimes like I've had friends where I know what they need to hear. I know what they need to do. And I will say it to them and I'll say it over and over again. And I realize that they're not there yet. And so I have to just be with them on the journey where they are. And I have to hope they get there. But I cannot bring them there. Sometimes it'll work. I'm not saying it never works. But sometimes a person just really needs to get there for themselves so they embody it. And when it really hits them and it really sinks into their body, that's when they make the change. Yeah, you don't believe it?
Yeah.
That's fine. You're not buying it.
No, I mean, I understand what you're saying. And I think that, yeah, absolutely, those lessons can be more impactful when you get there on your own. But you can still get there on your own with evidence provided by external parties.
I don't disagree. My point is that you might still take the same amount of time
Yeah.
to get there because you still haven't embodied it. But there's sometimes, like I have friends that, seek my advice quite often. And sometimes I will say something to them and they're not ready, but they heard it and they heard it in such a way that it did make a change. And they did take it in. But it doesn't always happen that way.
No, no, no.
Yeah, I wish it did.
So, to draw a line underneath this conversation, you think the appropriate response is never, we already knew.
No, I don't mind we already knew. What I don't want is for somebody to push someone into knowing before they want to know, before they want to know. When people said that to me, I was like, I wish you had said something. Because honestly, I could have been enjoying myself much sooner. Like, you have robbed me of dating millions of women. like, that was my first thoughts. I was like, how could you?
But yeah, okay, so the point that I was making before we got onto this detour was I still find that really fascinating that you went from not knowing and not having understood that about yourself to a year later, let's say, being like to your mum, this is who I am, I'm strident, I am like determined to be this person. Yeah. I find that fascinating that happened in that short span.
Well, I think it kind of speaks to kind of what I was saying at the beginning of this episode. I've always had this ability to like look into myself and understand things about myself that just come from dwelling, for lack of a better word.
The gift of the overthinker.
Yeah, the gift of the overthinker, but the gift of somebody who's like always spiritual. And I feel like it served me so well in my life. And why I trust it so much is because it's shown me time and time again that it's to be trusted. It hasn't let me down. I think if it was happening and it wasn't reliable, then I would question more. But I tend to not question so much when I understand something about myself. I tend to be like, okay, this is the direction we're heading in now, because I get it. So it just takes me a little less time now that I know to do the things.
So what does that mean in relationships? How does that translate?
Well, I mean, I hope it translates in that. I don't think it always translates this way, but I feel like in relationships, you will find yourself understanding things about yourself that you don't as a single person, right? You find yourself up against yourself in different ways, in some challenging ways that you wouldn't as a single person, right? You have to deal with the fact that, like, all right, so maybe I don't communicate well, right? If I'm a single person, I mean, I communicate great with my friends, but maybe I don't communicate well in a relationship. And so you get into a relationship and you find out you don't communicate well. You have to figure that out. And I hope for me that I will not try to make myself look incredible by saying I always get it. I think whenever I find myself in a relationship and I find out things about myself, it's always shocking and it's always something I'm trying really desperately to take in and be like, oh my God, I did not know this. And now I want to change this. And even though I'll have the awareness that I have this thing to change, I'm not saying it's easy to change it, but I'll know it. And it will sit with me. It won't just leave me. It won't be something I just forget, right? I will watch myself in one relationship do it and be like, I could take that to the next relationship. I have to figure this out. I have to understand this about myself, right?
Yeah. But does that awareness also then make you very decisive in respect of relationships? Like when you get to the point where you're like, oh, this isn't working, are you then like the next day, oh, yeah, no, let's break up?
No. I don't think I would ever be that way. I mean, I think that when I left my marriage, take for instance, I was in this relationship with this woman that I met at Meow for about 18 years. Yeah, we were together for about 18 years. So it was a very long time. And there was a very long period of separating. So it was over, I would say over a year or so that we were separating. What I tried to do and what I might do in some relationships is I like to call it Tetrising. It's this idea of like turning a shape multiple ways to make it fit. So I might be like, oh, well, if we did this, maybe it'll fit. Or maybe we did that. Like it's this idea of shifting a little bit to see, oh, is it going to work this way? Oh, is it going to work that way? And then there comes a point where you're like, it's actually not working anyway. It doesn't matter how many ways I try to Tetris it, how many times I try to turn it around, whether it's 180 degrees or 90 degrees, whatever the case is, it doesn't fit anymore. So I usually have to do that for a while before I just leave because I'm like, I'm not just going to leave this. I need to know that it really can't work and maybe we're just not on the same page.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think I leave anything abruptly unless it really is something absolutely terribly wrong about it. If it's something
Yeah.
terribly wrong, then I'm out. But if it's not terribly wrong, I think I will try to like do a little bit of like finagling and be
Problem
like, what?
solve.
Yeah, what can change? And also, shouldn't I ask myself, is it me that needs to do some changing? Is there something I need to be working on? Should I? Because if I just leave this and it was something I need to be working on, I'm just going to take it to the next place, to the next relationship. I have to ask myself, what role am I playing in this? I mean, sometimes the answer is no role at all. It's not always I'm the problem. It's sometimes it's the other person. Or maybe it's just a dynamic. It's not good.
And sometimes you are the problem, but there's also other things that are unfixable.
Absolutely. I mean, it can be any combination of those
Yeah, yeah.
things, right? It doesn't have to be just one.
Anyway, okay.
You're getting serious now, me. You're getting very serious on me.
Am I? What? Sorry.
It's okay. You can.
You were expertly taking us back to Meow Mix by talking about that first night. What else happened on that evening?
Well, so on that evening, I saw this girl. I asked her to dance, and we danced, and we had a really nice time. And I'm pretty sure my friend who, took me to Meow Mix was like, "What is happening?" So she just went from, wait a minute, now what's like dancing with girls? Like, wasn't it just a week ago you were like, I'm gay? Like, she also was like, what is happening? This is moving fast. So I think what happened that night was I got to be in that environment and just be like, what does this feel like? And it just felt overwhelmingly positive and good. It felt right. There was nothing that felt out of place for me about it. It felt different, like new to me, but also somehow familiar in a way I don't really understand. And just the music, the people, I felt like people were super friendly. It was a good time. I mean, also, let's keep in mind, like, that was a time where there were a couple of, like, lot more lesbian bars than there are now. And I had never been in an environment like that before. And I just loved it. I mean, I loved it right from the moment I walked in.
And so did it then become your regular?
Yes. That was like my go-to place. I would go there on Friday nights. I would go there and meet friends. I would dance. I went there so many times. I started to make friends, and I started to find this group of people that would get there. And as soon as I showed up, if I saw those people, I'd be like, yes, you're here. We would all dance. We would get there, I don't know, like 10, leave at 4 a.m., and just dance till we were like sweaty and like just tired. And it was just such a magical time. Like that bar just held so many wonderful memories for me.
And so the place closed in the mid-noughties. I'm going to say something really, really stereotypical and judgmental.
Yeah.
So please call me on it.
Okay.
Had you already stopped going because you were in a relationship and you had no need to go to the bar anymore?
Ooh, ouch. Came on so fast. Came on so fast. Despite the disclaimer, it came on fast. Had I stopped going, probably. I probably was going less. And I also felt like things were shifting for me in my life, right? Like, so whereas in my mid-20s, I wanted to be out all the time, you get a little older, you don't want that as much, right? So it's some combination of both of those things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So do you remember hearing that it was going to be closing down?
Yeah, I remember. I don't remember exactly what that felt like. I do remember mourning it because I had so many incredible moments at that bar. And there was something magical about Meow Mix and where it was and what it was for the day. And I mean, I definitely mourned losing that bar, And that was also maybe at a time, I'm not sure if my timeline is right, where we were losing a lot of like lesbian bars. And there's something so like really sad about that because it's like, where is the space where these people can go, where we can all go and gather and like meet people and just be in community, and those disappearing spaces that's a sad thing.
And what do you think in particular about lesbian bars sets them apart from other queer spaces?
Well, that's a good question because I feel like to answer that, it would be very difficult because I feel like I don't consider myself a lesbian right now, right? I consider myself a queer person, like someone of trans experience. And the difference between lesbian spaces and queer spaces is weird because there's so much crossover between what those places are. I don't think there are any places that I would consider that are just lesbian bars now, right? Because we're in a time right now where more people are identifying themselves as being queer, right, in some way, and not really calling themselves lesbians, right? And if I think about bars now and bars then, there was definitely more of this sort of like butch femme dynamic. There was a lot more of that happening. You still see that in some queer spaces, but it's less because just people are identifying, I think, in more ways where gender is not as defined. I mean, I don't know how to really answer that. The only thing I could say about that is just it felt like at a time where bars were called lesbian bars, there were more of those spaces to gather. And to me, it just feels like now there are more maybe nights and
Yeah.
less spaces.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to really answer that question. It's a really good question. I may have to think about that.
Is it things were so much more defined then? Like,
They
this is the
were.
gay male space,
Yeah.
this is the lesbian space.
Yeah.
Maybe we've got a club over here for transgender people and
Yeah.
their admirers, and then nothing mixed. And so, because of that, you could make some assumptions about whether you were welcome, how it would work for you in that space.
That's
And
true.
now with these queer spaces,
Yeah.
there's more of that permission up front. Or
You're
like,
not wrong. You're not wrong. And actually, now you're bringing me back to actually a moment where I remember going to Meow Mix one time, and I had a gay male friend that wanted to come along. And it was actually the night I met my wife, actually. And we had to always be thinking about, like, they didn't want men in those spaces. And we also have to be like, like, first of all, if you're a man, you definitely better be with like a pack of lesbians. You're trying to get in there. You can't just walk in there. You need to have a pack of lesbians with you who are vouching and be like, no, he's good. He can come in. You know what I mean? So it's like I remember they were definitely trying to keep that out. And also, what was also interesting is that you would have couples go there wanting to go in. Oh. Yeah. So that was a
heterosexual
whole thing.
couples.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there were heterosexual couples going in, trying to find a girl to hook up with, to bring home. And so that was always on the lookout. So I think there was a lot of distrust with any males in the space. There was a lot of distrust about that. And, for me, it's a little hard because it's like I finally wanted a space where I can meet women, and I didn't want to have to deal with men being there. But then there was a part of me that was like, but wait, like if this is a gay space, like in using gay in the way people might use queer now, then, shouldn't we be okay with that? So I was very conflicted about that and how that should work. But I think part of me was like, there was a big part of me that was like, no, I want a space where I can finally go meet girls and I don't have to worry about it. I don't want to walk into a bar where there's like women and men here and some of them are heterosexual and I don't know I can hit on this girl because she's with a guy. Like,
Yeah.
That's not cool. Like, that's the rest of the world. Why can't this bar just be, for women and people who are wanting to meet other women?
Yeah, I do find that whole thing really difficult. And I need to acknowledge that I am male and men typically dominate these spaces where there are mixed genders and set lots of stupid rules within those spaces, whether explicitly or implicitly. So my experience is going to be slightly different, but I did always feel a bit weird about those kind of rules of no heterosexual people or no women or things like that, because I think that everyone should be welcome in a space, but I do understand why conversations about those rules started.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you have to understand. I mean, if you don't have a space and you want a space for yourself, then it becomes a hard conversation to have because, like, I don't love the idea of, like, keeping anybody out of a space. But, like, if I don't feel like I can go to a place where it's for me, then where is my space? I think that's the thing. Like, that's what we want as queer people. We want a space for us. Because heterosexual people have millions of bars and places to go. Like, when we don't have that, especially for people who were born female and don't take on that title right now or that label, there's so few spaces where we feel like we can go and be. And so it's just like, shouldn't we also have those spaces? Maybe if we had more of those spaces, we would we'd feel not
More
so
relaxed about.
yeah, more relaxed about, opening them up. But if you don't have any spaces, that's very hard.
Yeah, yeah.
That's very hard. And especially for trans people, that's a real thing. It's really difficult.
Yeah, because then you get into this whole layer of heterosexual tourism or cisgender tourism where they're coming to be like, oh, I want to meet one of you in the wild. And it's all really gross and weird.
It's pretty gross. Let's face it. I mean, like we just talked about like the whole heterosexual like tourism thing, like coming into the bar. And I think that's why they started being like, they didn't want men in because they were like, they didn't want people coming in doing that. Like it wasn't respecting the people who were in the space to meet other women. Like that's not respecting them. Right. And again, they don't have many spaces. Why, like it's not cool. So it's a very tough conversation to navigate. And I understand both sides of it. But I think at the time I was really understanding the side of like, no, I need the space for me, especially
like
coming out.
Like if you let men in, then there's less space for women, right?
Exactly.
So
I need all the
be
women in
less
here.
Women to hit on.
Precisely. So you get what I'm saying.
Exactly. I know everything about this. So I want you to think back in time to that first night again. And let's say that you have an opportunity to have a conversation with Phil and impart some words of wisdom to that version of yourself.
Yeah.
What might you say?
Well, the advice would first of all not be about sexuality, right? It wouldn't be about like attraction or sexuality or any of those things. It would be about like...
You're not going to jump out and be like, I knew already.
Yes, you knew. Yeah, by the way, overalls, a telltale sign. A telltale sign. No, I would say to that person, first of all, I'm like, you're great. Everything's fine. And it's okay to take risks. It's okay to find your voice, use your voice, and to take risks. It's okay to say yes, even if you don't know. And yeah, it's big. And what I mean by that is I grew up, I've been thinking about this recently, so I'm really glad you asked this question. I grew up in a family, particularly with my mom, who is worried about everything, just has so much fear in life. And it's really held back what she can do. It holds back what kind of agency she has and what kind of like freedom she has in her life. And I love to think that I'm not like that. And I have departed from that, but there's always this thread that's pulling me to the past and pulling me to where I come from. And I'm now, at this point in my life, much later, way on from those years of when I first came out, I still see shades of that, right? They're not huge, but I see shades of that. And I wonder whether or not if I had some advice back in the day to say, you know what, you're good. You can go ahead and take some risks and you can try things and you can check these things out. You don't have to be afraid, right? You're always going to land on your feet. You're going to be fine. And you're going to learn more about yourself. I would go back and tell myself, you can go ahead and take some risks. You're okay. The risks you're taking are just going to enhance your life. They're just going to make you know more, make you have more experiences, and that's what I would say. I would say it's okay to do that. Go for it.
That really resonates with me. I grew up in a risk-averse household.
Oh, my God. So
And so I have that kind of embedded in my DNA of being like, oh, maybe not. Oh, maybe I'll just not do things. Yeah. And it's so exhausting.
It is exhausting. It's like, I have good friends who have like literally like are so good with like drawing me out, but they've told me, they were like, your first answer is going to be no, usually. And I'm like, I don't love that. I don't love that. I'm trying to not do that. I don't want to be that person. I don't want to say no. It's okay to say no, but like no right away. Like, what about, let me give it some thought, or, I don't know, like, well, let me give this a shot. Like, so I'm having to still navigate that. But if you grew up that way, it is your default. It's the thing you're going to go to first. It's what feels familiar and safe.
Okay. So we're going to take big risks this week, right? We're going to report back at the end of the week.
Absolutely.
What's our biggest risk and what's the biggest failure? Success as a result.
Yeah, I got to work on that. Let's see. I'll get back to you.
Do you have any memories of Meow Mix? or maybe a bar or a club from your own scene that you want to share? Well, if you do, why not get in touch? My plan, right, is to create the biggest online record of people's memories and stories of queer spaces, but I cannot do it alone. Go to lostspacespodcast.com, find the section Share a Lost Space, and then tell me all about what you got up to and what you remember, if you remember enough things to share, that is. You can also reach out to me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, where my handle is Lost Spaces Pod. Find out more about Phil by visiting their website, philcorin.com, or following them on Instagram, where they are at Phil Corin. Phil also hosts the Transition of Style podcast and co-hosts the I'm from Driftwood podcast. So if you want to hear more of them, why not go and check those two out? If you enjoyed this episode, I would really appreciate if you subscribed, left a review on your podcast platform, or just told other people that you think might be interested in giving it a little listen too. My name is Kay Anderson, and you have been listening to Lost Spaces. So thank you, I guess. Talk to you next week.